Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we are going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if Dre joined Miyagi-Do during the events of Cobra Kai? So in this timeline, Dre would actually be in the same universe as the 1984 Karate Kid movie, and this What If would take place in 2010. So instead of moving to China, Dre and his mom would move to the valley, and Dre would be a new student at his school, and he would be bullied for being the new kid, much like they picked on Kenny in the original timeline. Dre would move to the same apartments Johnny lived in, but Johnny and Dre would never interact, and Dre would get beaten up by a bunch of bullies, and the bullies would corner Dre at the strip mall. Daniel would be there buying some food for him and Sam. This is when Daniel would see the bullies picking on Dre, and this would remind him of how the Cobra Kais attacked him when he was younger. So Daniel would confront the kids, and he would tell them to leave Dre alone, but the kids wouldn't want to listen to Daniel, and they would start attacking him, but Daniel would block the attacks, and much like Mr. Han did, he would use their own attacks against them, and the bullies would get out of there. Dre would thank Daniel for saving him, and he would ask Daniel if he could teach him so that he could defend himself, and Daniel would remember how Mr. Miyagi helped him, so Daniel would agree to train Dre, and later on, Dre would tell his mom that Daniel was going to teach him karate, but Mrs. Parker wouldn't be too happy. She would want to meet Daniel before allowing Dre to go learn karate. So Daniel would meet Mrs. Parker, and she would realize that Daniel was Daniel LaRusso of LaRusso Auto. So she would allow Daniel to train Dre. So Dre would go to Daniel's house so that he could teach him some karate. Sam would be excited to learn, so she would also join in. So Daniel would start teaching Dre to wax on and wax off. Dre wouldn't understand what he was doing, and he would think that Daniel was scamming him, but Daniel would say that this would all make sense later. Mr. Miyagi would occasionally show up, and he would be happy that Daniel had found a student, and Mr. Miyagi would teach Dre some new movements, and eventually Dre and Sam would start learning Miyagi-Do, and Dre and his family would become close to the LaRussos, and he would have a very similar bond that Daniel had with Mr. Miyagi. And without the pressure of the tournament, Dre would continue training in Miyagi-Do, and there would be no conflict in this timeline. And one day Daniel would drive Dre home, and he would see Johnny outside his apartment, and Daniel would want to catch up, but Johnny would still be mad at Daniel after all these years, and they would have a very similar interaction they had in the dealership. So in this timeline, Johnny wouldn't open up Cobra Kai. A year would pass, and Mr. Miyagi would still pass away, and Dre and his family would attend his funeral. Dre would want to honor the Miyagi-Do legacy, so Dre would continue training with Daniel over the years, and by the time the events of Cobra Kai would take place, Dre would be proficient in Miyagi-Do, and Daniel would be there for Dre's graduation, and he would help him get into a good university. Miguel would still move to the valley, but Dre would offer to show Miguel around. So Dre and Miguel would become friends, and Dre would accompany Miguel to the convenience store, and he would still run into Kyler and his friends, but in this timeline Dre would protect Miguel, and he would use Miyagi-Do to fight them off. Miguel would be impressed by Dre's skill, and he would ask Dre to teach him. So Dre would invite Miguel to join Miyagi-Do. So Dre would bring Miguel to Daniel's house, and he would explain what happened, and Daniel would find out about Kyler. So Sam would break up with Kyler. So Daniel would decide to make Miyagi-Do public, and Daniel would start training Miguel in Miyagi-Do. Dre would see Miguel as his younger brother. Miguel and Sam would still meet, and Miguel and Sam would become friends and eventually start dating, and Miguel would still become friends with Eli and Dimitri, and he would also invite them to join Miyagi-Do. So Eli and Dimitri would become new students at Miyagi-Do. Aisha would eventually join, and because Miguel and Aisha were in Miyagi-Do, Sam would decide to rejoin, and without much conflict, Miyagi-Do would continue to grow, but they wouldn't compete in any tournaments because Dre would remember what Mr. Miyagi told him, that karate was not about winning medals, and overall, things would be a lot more happier and more peaceful in this timeline. And that is where I'm gonna end this what if. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Dre joined Miyagi-Do during the events of Cobra Kai? Let me know in the comments below. All members have access to emojis that can be used in comments and live streams. This isn't mandatory. This is only something extra if you want to support the channel even more. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.